Well, Charlie Sykes, welcome back to your old stomping grounds.
No, it's extraordinary to be back here. I spent a few years here.
Yeah. You made some news when you were a radio host and commentator, and sounds like you're going to make some more news today. What are you doing?
Well, it's a little bit surprising. I mean, I think that most people will remember that for 23 years I was a conservative radio talk show host, and I still consider myself a conservative, but you know, I don't think this is a normal election, and so I'm doing something that I have to admit would have been a big surprise to me even a few years ago, but Donald Trump cannot be allowed back in the White House, and the only way to prevent that from happening is to support Kamala Harris. So really, for the first time in my adult life, I'm actually going to be voting for a Democrat for president.
So you're going to be voting for Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
At what point did you come to that decision?
Well, look, I've been never Trump for many years, and it is a binary choice. On January 20th, either Donald Trump is going to be sworn in as the 47th president, or it's going to be Kamala Harris. And I disagree with her on a lot of policy issues, but I think that this is not a normal election between Democrats and Republicans, liberal and conservative. You know, I can tolerate a lot of differences on issues, but not somebody who would shred the Constitution. So I'm really in the same camp as Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, who recognized that, look, we can disagree on maybe half of the major policy issues, but there's something more fundamental going on right here.
What is that, do you think? Is it really, she talked about it, you were there with Liz Cheney a week ago. Is it about the fidelity to the Constitution?
I think that's the heart of it. You know, anyone who, you know, talks about terminating the Constitution to restore themselves to power, anyone who incites a violent attack on the Capitol, should never be allowed back near the Oval Office. And Donald Trump is a unique figure in American politics. And again, as a conservative, I remember when conservatives thought that character mattered, when conservatives thought that America should be a shining city on a hill. And you see on one issue after another, Donald Trump shredding that, shredding respect for the law, shredding respect for just fundamental decency. So I don't see Donald Trump as the conservative choice in this election.
So why vote for her and not maybe take the Paul Ryan route? Vote for somebody else that you would want as a conservative?
Well, I mean, let's stick with that, because, you know, we're in an extraordinary moment where so many of the people who work closely with Donald Trump are saying we're not going to support him. Now, they may not be endorsing Kamala Harris, but his vice president, Mike Pence, the former speaker, Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney, the nominee of the Republican Party, all saying we do not think that this man is fit for office. Now, they haven't crossed over to vote for the Democrat, and I understand that, because there's a lot of partisan muscle memory. And I understand that for a lot of Republicans and conservatives, you know, pulling that lever is a very, very difficult choice. But ultimately, it's either going to be him or it's going to be her. And if you regard Donald Trump as an existential threat to our constitutional Republican values, then I don't think that there's any choice. I mean, it might feel good, it might feel warm and fuzzy to write in George Washington, but George Washington's not on the ballot this time.
What you do in 2020?
I did vote for Joe Biden, and I expected that he was going to win back then. But I thought it was so important to make a shift. But again, that wasn't an endorsement of all of his policies. I said I expect to disagree with him on a lot of things. But ultimately, again, this is not about whether I agree on tax policy or whether I agree on student loan debt, which I don't. It's about whether you're going to have fidelity to democratic norms. It's whether or not you're going to be a decent person or someone who's going to tear apart the fabric of this country.
Well, what would you say? I mean, I was just at one of his rallies, and he often brings up, you know, people may not like him personally or concerned about style versus the substance. You know, you're going to hear it from your conservative friends.
Yeah.
Charlie, what's wrong? You know, are you missing the bigger picture here by sticking to one issue, which is important, but without seeing the bigger picture?
This is the bigger picture. It is a bigger picture when you have somebody kowtowing to dictators, fawning on Vladimir Putin, willing to abandon our allies in NATO. I mean, I remember when America was the shining city on the hill where the rest of the world looked to us for democratic values. To shred those democratic values is frankly, goes to the big picture. What is America? Who are we? What do we stand for? Now, just take anything that we would have regarded as a conservative value a few years ago. Law and order. Here's somebody who incited a violent attack on the Capitol and is now promising that he will pardon rioters who beat and attacked and caused the death of police officers. American exceptionalism. Donald Trump was asked, well, Vladimir Putin's a murderer. And what does Donald Trump say? He says, well, we kill a lot of people too. He regards, instead of saying, we are a shining city on a hill, he talks about it as this dystopian nightmare. And also, I think the way that Donald Trump deals with the American people, the chronic lying, the insults, is not a matter of personality. It's basically saying, I am a toxic narcissist who will do and say anything that will help me. He presided over a disastrous, I think, COVID pandemic, which we've now memory hold. And I think that, and in terms of being a fiscal conservative, I had Paul Ryan on my show hundreds of times talking about the national debt. Donald Trump exploded the national debt. His policies would make it even worse.
Both sides have contributed.
Well,
to
that's absolutely, but
and not much is being said about it.
No, and it is remarkable how we keep sleepwalking into all of that. So you can't say that Donald Trump is the choice if you're a fiscal conservative, or if you care about fidelity to the Constitution, or you care about law and order, or if you care about free markets. Donald Trump is about dividing Americans from one another. And also, I do think that on the issue of immigration, I do think that we need to secure the border. But Donald Trump's ideas are cartoonish, whether it's the wall or the mass deportation of more than 10 million human beings. This is not who we are as Americans. This is not what I think that we were talking about when we said, that America is this beacon to the rest of the world.
So J.D. Vance used to be in the Never Trumper camp and then moved into his camp. When you saw him picked as a vice president, and when you were, I'm sure you were watching his trajectory and within the party, did he give you hope at one time, like, okay, maybe things will be different with a J.D. Vance as a VP?
No, J.D. Vance has really become kind of an avatar to what's happened to the Republican Party and to the right. He was an intelligent, thoughtful writer who understood who and what Donald Trump was. But there has been this, and I think that what we have to talk about is not just Donald Trump, but what's happened to the Republican Party, the willingness to embrace the lies about the election, but also these extreme policies and these approaches. And so J.D. Vance, I think, is an indication of what people are willing to do and say in order to advance themselves or be part of this MAGA universe. And I guess I just didn't want to be part of this MAGA universe. I didn't want to be part of this world.
Did you feel the blowback and pushback in 2016 when you became a Never Trumper? And can you imagine what it will be now, given your position with Kamala Harris?
Well, I think back in 2016, I made the decision, I'm Never Trump from the moment he came down that golden escalator. And I think that it's important to keep him out. And so, look, this is not a new thing for me. I do understand this. It was extraordinary back in 2016 because, as you remember, Charles, in Wisconsin, Republicans were not buying what Donald Trump was selling. He lost
the April primary.
He lost the April primary by a substantial margin. But what I saw in 2016 was not the transformation of Donald Trump. It was the transformation of the Republican Party and how they moved to accept things that I think they had previously thought of as unacceptable. So I didn't feel that I had moved. I felt that the Republican Party, the conservatives had moved away, that they were the ones who changed.
Would you be here today if Nikki Haley were at the top of the ticket?
I don't know, because she's not at the top of the ticket. What I do know is that, there are new polls out suggesting that more than a third of Nikki Haley primary voters are thinking of voting for Kamala Harris. Now that's amazing. These are people who in the primary voted for a conservative Republican and are now thinking of voting for the Democrat. And I think that captures how strange and surreal this political moment is.
You used to call yourself a recovering liberal.
Yeah.
Are you still recovering? I mean, is there still some issues there that you're like, liberals do have something to look at?
Oh no! Look, I'm recovering across the board now. When I said I was a recovering liberal, when I grew up, I was, my father was campaign manager for Eugene McCarthy, and that's how I became involved in politics. I guess I'm skeptical of all political orthodoxies, and maybe that makes it easier for me to break from the tribe. That I look at our political lineup, and on the left, they expect that you're going to agree with everything on the buffet. On the right now, they keep changing it. You used to have to be for free markets, now you have to be for tariffs. You used to have to be for American leadership, now you have to tolerate Vladimir Putin, whatever. I'm out of that, and I'm trying to look at American politics from a different lens than just simply what tribe expects you to believe what.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.